Okay, so thank you. So yeah, I'm Paul Smith from Wildlife Queensland Sunshine Coast, and pretty much what I'll be talking about today is an extension from what Jill Chamberlain talked about yesterday when she was talking about the birds of Palmerston Passage. So looking at those and also on the sandbanks through Caloundra. So I'm looking at a bit more of a like a landscape scale, so a little bit wider. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the map by now. But the area specifically looking at is bounded by the Bruce Highway to the west, Bribie Island, Palmerston Passage to the east, Caloundra up to the north. And what we've been doing is doing some surveys. So various surveys all around this region. So Isabel Jordan, we've got Sovereign Court down to the south, Bobby Sattler on the north side. And the one I'm going to be talking about a little bit more specifically is the one in the middle, which is the Aura development. So if you zoom into that centre circle, so the reason why this one is important is, as you probably all know, the Aura development's going ahead. So the biggest residential industrial city being developed on the Sunshine Coast. But the important thing is from the north, where you can just see the new suburb of Baringa. So from there, going south to Bells Creek, there's an environmental protection zone that's being put in. So we've been surveying this sort of greater area just to see what's there. So as you know, so Bells Creek directly flows into the Palmerston Passage, which is of course relevant to everyone here today. Historically, this area has been a pine plantation. So this was a pine plantation for many years that then finished. It was all cleared and then was transformed into predominantly grazel feeding grounds. So just open grassed areas. So we see that on the map. So looking at that western side, there has been a lot of regrowth since all those pine plantations have been taken out. So you can see that sort of peninsula looking thing, which is now called Warrumbambi. So there has been a lot of regrowth there, but it's generally a monotype, just a Melaleuca regrowth. So paperbark is very, very dense, very sort of sterile area, if you like. On the lower parts of this area, basically right down to the water table, we've got those sedges where there's almost sort of permanent, semi-permanent water. And then we've got a very thin strip of buffer around the Bells Creek. So that's the kind of area we're looking at. So fundamentally, say looking on a map, pretty low sort of environmental, value area. So the question is, in this area, is there any animals there? And if there is, what is there and how much? So I'll just go in a bit of detail into, very quick detail into what we've seen. So if you look at birds first of all, and it's going to be hard to read, so you'll be able to see it in more detail a bit later. So currently up to 140 different bird species have been found in this area, which is a pretty staggering amount. So if you talk to any birder anywhere around the world and ask them, do you see 140 species of bird in your neighbourhood, they'll just laugh at you. It's an absolutely incredible number that we're still seeing, on this, degraded land right on the Palmerston Passage. It also tells us a bit of a story as well. So we'll go through a few of them. But one of the few things which is a little bit sort of, interesting. So we've got things like Bassian russet-tailed thrushes, we've got white-browed drigones, we've got whipbirds, rose-crowned fruit doves. So these are all things that we should be most likely to see up in the hinterland, there's closed forest areas. But we're seeing those kind of things literally right on that strip, right on the Palmerston Passage. So, so interesting from that. If we take that a little bit further into one of those groups that I'll just highlight, and that's the raptors. So currently we've found a wider group. We've currently got 14 different raptors that have been seen, which is pretty staggering considering we've actually found more raptors than honeyeaters. So pretty incredible. We'll go into the reasons why in a little bit, but just for the birders out there, I just want to point out one of those birds that we did find in the honeyeaters, spiny-cheeked honeyeater. So this is a bird that should be found way out west of Queensland and south. But we assume that with the droughts, it's kept on flying and ended up right on the coast here in the Sunshine Coast. So a bit of a notable sighting there. So if you look at the raptors, oops, hold on, we went backwards. Sorry, make me go back. Okay, do you have audio? No, we don't have audio. Okay, there is audio, just pretend there's whistling kites in the background. So this is all our set, basically our complete set of raptors that we found. And again, it tells a little bit of story as well. So things like the black shouldered kite, the kestrels, the goshawks. So these guys need these huge, big open expanses of grassland. Someone's emailed them. Oh, there you go, audio. Loud audio, but audio. So these guys need those really big open expanses of grass because they're flying through, picking off all the small mammals, so the melamies, antechinus, swamp rats, things like that. So interesting to see what happens with further development on the coast, or what happens to these guys that need this big grassland areas. Conversely, say if we look at Brahminy kites, ospreys, white-bellied seagulls, so these are guys that are just flying through Bells Creek, picking off the fish. So perhaps a pretty good indicator of water quality and what's happening in the river system. So, and also for nesting as well. So obviously they need those big trees for nesting. And so not truly a raptor, but it's interesting anyway. So bottom right-hand corner, one of the things we saw was a grass owl, which is something that I never thought we'd actually see, and probably most birders out there probably haven't seen it. But this is an owl that's, it actually nests on the ground, which if you think in Australian context now is not a good place to be with the cats and dogs, etc. So really, really important to see that bird here. And see, it's incredible. Really big, long legs, so it can actually walk through the grass and see what's happening over top. So really, really amazing when we saw that bird. Okay, so now, I think maybe the batteries are wearing out a bit. Should I be pointing this way? Nope. Okay, we're back on again. Okay, so that was a bird. So 140 species of birds. Now we'll look at the other stuff. So currently 100 species of other things, and we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail. So currently, and we're going to add to that list in a little bit in the next few weeks, currently up to 241 different species. So again, staggering amount of what we're seeing on this kind of habitat. Okay, so this is one of the success stories. So we said to the developer, which is Stockland, as you may know, we said any trees that have to be removed from the development site or may have died, rather than just bringing away, mulching them up, just drag them onto the grassland. Doesn't have to be pretty, just drag them there, leave them, we'll see what happens. So if you notice in the center picture, you can see those two holes. So it's actually a nest or a burrow that's been made by the striated pardalate. So these guys came in and within the first season, were actually using this big tree as a nesting site. So a really good success story. Similarly now, one of the best places now to see the small skinks, which is something we weren't seeing hardly ever when we first did the survey. They're now using this as a nesting site, or browsing for food, sunbathing, etc. So really good to see those coming in strong numbers on these big trees. Okay, so next group, we'll move to the mammals. So currently 11 different mammals. Top right-hand corner, you can see the video. You'll see him flicking his ear eventually. So swamp wallaby. So that tells us a good story that there is still enough density within that, particularly the riparian section, because these guys need that sort of dense, forest to sort of protection. That's their preferred environment. Conversely, eastern grey kangaroos, we are seeing high numbers of eastern grey kangaroos, presumably with the construction starting in the north site, and it seems they've been pushing down south and east where we are. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those over the years. Hopefully be a better tale than what's happened with the kangaroo studies that have happened on the University of the Sunshine Coast. So ask Elizabeth, Dr. Elizabeth Brunton about that if you don't know. Bottom corner's now just started up. So this is the common brush-tailed possum. Another interesting thing that we now have spotted those. So unlike their cousins, the ringtails, which make their own nest, these guys need the hollows. So this tells us that there are trees that are old enough and big enough to have hollows in. So it's good to see those guys that have come up on the cameras and some sightings. Okay, so next one, frogs. So currently 13 different frogs plus a cane toad as you'd expect. One of those frogs is listed the Wallam froglet. The reason why they're have been listed is they require that really acidic soils that we basically get just through this strip within southeast Queensland. So yeah, it looks like this could be one of their last strongholds. Around. Oh, and there's the audio. Yeah, it's good to see that they have. Yeah, this area is one of their last sort of strongholds. So yeah, in strong numbers where we're seeing them. Okay, reptiles, things that everybody loves. So currently up to 16 different reptiles. So the video you see, this is actually a really good specimen of a red-bellied black. But the thing that we're trying to see, and has been found outside of this project, we're trying to find the tiger snake. And the reason why we're trying to find those is the tiger snakes love the cold weather. They're a cold weather species, so southern states. And pretty much the northernmost limit of a tiger snake is effectively Caloundra Road. So we know they're in this strip through here, So that's the one we're trying to monitor. So with global warming, it'll be interesting to see what happens, say, as we're right on that northern limit of where the tiger snake's found. And also someone's stolen my thunder a bit earlier than I thought, but thank you for that. So these are the guys that are often overlooked. So the crustaceans, the yabbies, the crayfish. Sand yabbies, we are finding those pretty frequently throughout the site. And the reason why they are so rare is, again, they require these, the sedge heathlands, the acidic tannin waters, and they need to be on that sandy soil. So pretty much found just in this southeastern strip, or extended almost Sunshine Coast strip of the coast. The one in the middle, the swamp yabby, so this will be the most rarest species that you'll ever see, hopefully we'll ever see on the Sunshine Coast. So ICN listed as endangered, and again, the reason why is because it needs very, very specific environment to live. Obviously with development, land clearing, these natural ponds with these conditions are becoming rarer and rarer. And I've got a feeling that the swamp yabby is probably going to get even rarer, because I think if we can find them, if we can test them, DNA test them, I've got a feeling they're probably going to be subdivided into many different species. I should say this is the only one of that genus on the planet, and it's also believed to be the smallest crayfish in the world as well. And you also know, just in case you ever do, they're very small, only about 25 mil big, so about an inch big. But you'll notice that rather than most ones, their claws doing that, the swamp yabby goes like that. So that's a quick way you can identify if you do find one of these. So yeah, so that's my talk. Hope you enjoyed it. So thank you.
Get any questions, so I will take one from the floor if someone puts their hand up. Yes, Stuart. So it's a bit of a long question. I'll repeat it for everyone who didn't hear it. The question is about feral cats and dogs. Are there feral cats and dogs known to be in the area? And with increasing urban development, is domestic cats and dogs also increasing the problem? And if so, what can be done about it?
Yeah, so we have seen dogs on the area, mainly through footprints. We're seeing that through there. It is obviously a big problem. Cats, we haven't seen any ID of yet, which is good. But as I say, with that development, that's unfortunately one of the things that's going to have to be monitored. So I've been working closely with Susie Chapman, and also the guys from Stockland, trying to create this package. And I don't know if you have or will be talking about it, but yeah, the residents coming in that are buying in this area, they do actually have a package, an information brochure to say, if preferably don't have dogs or cats. If they do, keep them inside. And now in the last few months, just over Christmas, they have actually got a dog walking area, and there's like a playground for dogs. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll stay like that. But yeah, big problem. And so particularly, things like grass owls, etc. That's the last thing we need is things, running through the undergrowth. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for that presentation.